The Galaxy Council did not build its chamber for comfort. It was built for control. A ring of black stone and living metal floated above the capital world of Vera, suspended in a gravity field so steady that even water in an open cup would not ripple. The ceiling was a slow-turning dome of transparent crystal, showing the stars like cold eyes. Beneath it, 73 species sat in tiered arcs, their seats shaped for bodies that ranged from soft and boneless to tall and armored. At the center, a circular dais held the council's symbol, a silver spiral, meaning balance, restraint, order. Peace, managed like a machine. High Arbiter Seln of the Karun leaned forward, his long fingers resting on a rail that pulsed faintly with blue light. His voice was calm, practiced, and heavy with the kind of authority that never needed to raise itself. Item 17, he said. Ratification of Containment Protocol. Human military participation restriction. A soft wave of amusement moved through the chamber. Not laughter yet, more like a collective breath that carried the same thought. Finally, on the lower arc, in the section reserved for newly admitted species, the human delegation sat alone at a plain desk. No ceremonial canopy, no honor guards, no incense. Just 3 humans in dark formal uniforms, their insignia small, their posture tight. Ambassador Lena Ward did not move. Her hands were folded. Her face was still. The only hint of strain was the muscle at her jaw, working once, then stopping. To her left sat Commander Idris Maddox, military liaison, eyes fixed on the Arbiter. To her right, Archivist Nia Cade, civilian specialist, whose job was to present evidence when politics turned into performance. This was a performance. A Varan delegate, tall, pale, with bright gold markings across the cheeks, stood to speak. Their species was famous for diplomacy. Their wars, when they happened, were almost polite. The Council has endured cycles of conflict and resolution, the Varan said. We have learned that violence is a language, and therefore must have grammar. The humans do not share our grammar. More murmurs. A few clicks of amusement from insectoid mouths. Another delegate stood, one of the Kesh. They were broad and scaled, their species old enough to have fought wars before some stars had been charted. When the humans joined the Council, the Kesh delegate said, they brought unstable doctrine. They call it total war. They call it no surrender. They call it victory or extinction. He paused, letting the words hang. They turn entire economies into weapons. They turn their civilians into logistics. They do not stop when a boundary is established. They do not stop when a signal is sent. They do not stop when the cost becomes irrational. The delegate's eyes narrowed. Such a species cannot be allowed to participate in regulated conflict. The ban is not punishment. It is a safeguard. The chamber approved with a soft rumble. High Arbiter Seln raised one hand, a gesture for order. Let the record show, the proposed restriction applies only to off-world engagements under Council mandate. Humans will retain defense rights within their sovereign space. A Karuan near the top arc made a sound that translated as a laugh. Defense rights, it said, as if anyone intends to invade them. More laughter this time, open and sharp. The sound echoed strangely in the chamber, bouncing off crystal and stone until it became something colder. Ambassador Ward kept her eyes forward. Commander Maddox shifted slightly, shoulders tightening, like a dog held too hard by a leash. The Arbiter glanced down at the human section, eyes like dull gemstones. Human delegation, he said. You have the right to respond. Silence. Ward's mouth opened a fraction, then closed. It was Archivist Nia Cade who rose instead. She did not look like the ones who made speeches. She looked like the ones who carried them. Clean uniform, no medals, short hair, a tablet in her hands. High Arbiter, Cade said. Her voice was steady, not angry, not pleading, just controlled. Before the Council votes, humanity requests permission to submit one historical record into the Council archives. A few delegates turned their heads. Historical record? The Varan asked, amused. From Earth's internal conflicts? Cade nodded once. Yes. More murmurs. A small bird-like species in the upper arc fluttered its throat membranes. Is this a display? A propaganda appeal? No, Cade said. It is evidence. High Arbiter Seln leaned back. Evidence of what? Cade did not hesitate. Evidence that this ban will not protect the galaxy from humans, she said. It will protect the galaxy from what happens when humans are cornered, ignored, and forced to survive. That drew a ripple, less laughter now, more curiosity. Commander Maddox looked at her, a brief sharp glance, as if checking whether she truly intended to say that out loud. Kate continued. The Council believes humans escalate conflict because of aggression. The truth is simpler. Humans escalate when they believe there is no other choice. The Kesh delegate hissed quietly. All species believe that. Not like humans, Kate said. A few delegates laughed again, but it sounded weaker, like people laughing in a room where the lights had dimmed. High Arbiter Seln studied Cade for a long moment. Submit your record, he said at last. The Council will allow a short presentation. 5 minutes. The Varen delegate leaned toward a neighbor and spoke in a low tone, but the chamber's translation system caught it and rendered it politely for everyone. 5 minutes of human drama, it translated. How charming. Cade inclined her head, accepting the insult without reaction. She stepped forward onto the central dais. The floor recognized her identity and lit faintly beneath her boots. The spiral emblem at the center reflected off the metal edges of her tablet. She placed the device into the dais interface. The chamber's light dimmed. The stars above seemed to sharpen. A floating screen unfolded in the air, transparent at first, then solid, then wide enough to be seen by every seat. Text appeared. Archive submission. Humanity file. 7 Theta origin title. The recording classification. Unedited historical combat footage source. Earth Military Archives. PRE Council era. Date of event. Unlisted. A delegate made a clicking sound. Why unlisted? Cade's eyes stayed on the screen. Because even on Earth, she said softly, people argued whether it should ever be shown again. The first image snapped into existence. Not a hero shot. Not a polished montage. A shaky handheld view. Gray smoke. Flickering emergency lights. A corridor. Human voices. Hoarse, fast, breathing hard. Move. Move. Seal that hatch. The camera swung left. A wounded soldier was dragged by 2 others, blood floating in round beads in low gravity. The soldier's face was young. Eyes open. Shocked, not crying. Just staring as if he could not believe the universe allowed pain like that. A council member scoffed. This is your proof? Primitive violence. Cade did not answer. The corridor ended in a blasted doorway. Beyond it was the blackness of space, held back by a flickering containment field. Outside, debris drifted in slow motion like the bones of a broken ship. A human voice, closer now, calm but tired. This is Captain Reyes, it said. If anyone finds this, you need to understand. We didn't start this war, but we will end it. The chamber quieted. On screen, a human hand slammed a panel. The containment field strengthened for a moment, then shimmered, unstable. The ship groaned. The sound vibrated through the council chamber as if the footage carried weight. A delegate from a species that communicated with scent released a sharp warning pheromone. The translation system rendered it as a note. Discomfort detected. The camera jolted again. A view out of viewport. A planet hung below, half lit by a star. Its surface was scarred. Fires crawled across continents in orange lines. A few council members leaned forward without realizing it. This is a civilian world? The Varen delegate asked, voice suddenly smaller. Yes, Kate said. The camera zoomed, poorly, toward the surface. Plumes of smoke rose like black pillars. In orbit, dozens of ships burned. A Kesh counselor barked a laugh that came out nervous. You expect sympathy? All species endure war. The footage was cut, hard and abrupt. Now the screen showed a wide shot, a human assembly hall. Not council-level elegance. It looked like an underground bunker. Concrete. Harsh lights. People packed shoulder to shoulder. A man stood at a podium. He wore a uniform, but it did not shine. He looked exhausted. His eyes were red. Behind him, a large display showed a map of Earth and the surrounding space. Red zones. Failing lines. Retreat arrows. The man spoke. We have lost the outer colonies, he said. We have lost Jupiter Station. We have lost 3 fleets. No dramatic pauses. Just facts. He lifted a hand, and the crowd quieted instantly. Not because they were trained, but because they were listening like drowning people listening for air. The enemy has offered terms, he said. A murmur moved through the room. Hope, fragile as glass. The man's voice tightened. The terms are surrender, he said. Surrender of Earth's sovereignty. Surrender of our children's future. Surrender of our right to exist as ourselves. He looked down, then back up. We decline. The crowd did not cheer. They exhaled, like they had known the answer already and were relieved not to pretend otherwise. In the council chamber, a long-bodied alien whispered to another. The translation caught it again. They refuse even when defeat is certain. That is irrational. Kate finally turned her head slightly toward the sound. It is, she said. That is the point. The footage was cut again. A shipyard. Gigantic. Raw. Messy. Human-made. Thousands of workers in suits moved like ants across skeletal frames of ships. Sparks rained. Machines screamed. Cargo containers flew along the rails. Entire sections of the hull were welded in place with no elegance, no art, just speed. A new voice over the recording, older, female. This is not a fleet, the voice said. This is a promise. The camera panned across ships lined in rows, unfinished but already armed. Their shapes were brutal. Thick armor. Oversized engines. Weapon mounts like scars. A council delegate muttered, crude. Then the camera showed the scale. Not dozens. Hundreds. The chamber went quiet enough that the hum of the gravity field could be heard. The recording cut again. A human child, maybe 10 years old, sat at a table in a dim home. The child's hands folded a paper. The paper became a small starship. A parent's voice spoke gently off camera. Your brother's ship is out there, the parent said. The child held up the folded ship. Will he come back? The parent paused. No, the parent said. But he will make sure someone else does. The child nodded, as if that answer made sense. Several council members shifted uncomfortably. The arbiter's eyes narrowed slightly. This is emotional manipulation. Kate looked up at him. It's a memory, she said. And that is why you laughed. She tapped her tablet. The recording jumped. Now it was space again. A battle. A human fleet, smaller, outnumbered, moved like a wall of iron. They were being hit by beams that carved through ships. Explosions blossomed like silent suns. A human commander's voice came through, steady even as alarms screamed. Hold the line, the voice said. You are the door. If you break, Earth dies. A ship in the front line split in half. The camera caught its insides for a second. People, equipment, lights. Then it was gone. The fleet did not retreat. A council member finally whispered what no one else wanted to say. They are dying on purpose. Kate's voice was quiet. They are, she said. High Arbiter Seln lifted a hand. Stop the recording, he ordered. The screen froze on the image of a human ship burning, still firing. For a heartbeat, the council chamber held the frozen fire like a painting. Kate did not move. She did not plead. She waited, like someone who had brought the truth and knew it would not be welcomed. The Arbiter stared at the image. 5 minutes, he said. You have shown suffering and stubbornness. Nothing more. A few delegates nodded quickly, grateful to return to certainty. But not all. The veteran delegate did not look amused anymore. High Arbiter, they said carefully, this is from pre-council Earth. Against whom were they fighting? Cade's eyes returned to the frozen screen. An enemy that thought humans would surrender, she said. Commander Maddox finally spoke, voice low and controlled. And an enemy, he added, that learned the hard way why humans invented the phrase total war. High Arbiter Seln's jaw tightened. The council is not impressed by primitive brutality. Cade stepped forward one pace, just one. This is not the impressive part, she said. A hush fell again. Cade touched the tablet. The frozen image dissolved. The screen went black. New text appeared. Part 2 of the recording. The response. And then, before anyone could make another joke, the sound began. Not screaming. Not explosions. A human voice, recorded in a room so quiet that even breathing sounded loud. This is Earth's final notice, the voice said. You have mistaken restraint for weakness. The stars above the chamber seemed colder. Kate did not look at the delegates now. She looked at the Arbiter, straight and steady. You banned humans because you believe we cannot control ourselves, she said. You laugh because you think we are small. Her finger hovered over the playback control. Now, she said, you will see what we do when there is nothing left to lose. And for the first time, the Galaxy Council did not laugh. They just watched, silently, waiting for the next image, because some part of them already knew the truth was about to become irreversible. The screen did not immediately show fire. That alone unsettled the council. Instead, the image resolved into silence. True silence, the kind only space could hold. No music, no commentary, no dramatic framing. Just a wide view of a star system rendered in stark sensor gray, overlaid with human tactical glyphs that flickered as if unsure whether they should exist at all. A quiet human voice replaced the static. This recording was classified for one reason, it said. Not because it shows what we lost, but because it shows what we chose to become. The council chamber felt smaller. The system on screen was unfamiliar to most of the delegates. A mid-sized star, several inhabited worlds, orbital infrastructure dense enough to suggest long-term stability, trade lanes glowing faintly like veins. A prosperous system, a confident one. A human analyst's voice cut in, flat and precise. Enemy doctrine assessment. Probability of negotiated settlement, 0.4%. Probability of enemy escalation, 92%. Probability of enemy compliance after punitive strike, negligible. A pause. Conclusion, deterrence failure. One of the elder delegates leaned forward. They speak of failure as if it is routine. Kate did not respond. She stood with her hands folded behind her back, posture straight, eyes fixed on the screen like someone revisiting a grave. The recording continued. Human ships appeared at the edge of the system, not through dramatic jumps, not with flares of light, but quietly, like a thought forming too late. Their silhouettes were wrong by council standards. Too thick, too asymmetrical. Heat signatures uneven, engines overpowered. Ugly ships, built for endurance, not admiration. A human fleet commander appeared briefly on the display, not in full frame, but as a transparent overlay in the corner. The image quality was poor. The commander's face was lined, eyes sunken, expression calm in a way that felt earned. "This is Admiral Cho," the commander said. "Final authorization granted. Execute Phase 1. The council expected weapons. Instead, the system's outermost starbase flickered and went dark. No explosion, no debris, just gone. A Kesh delegate hissed sharply. What did they do? The human voice returned, clinical. Targeted energy inversion. Infrastructure collapse without kinetic discharge. Civilian casualties were minimized. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Surprise, not approval. "They're showing restraint," one delegate whispered. Cade's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. On screen, the same thing happened again. Another starbase vanished, then another. Communications arrays blinked out. Navigation beacons failed. The trade lanes dimmed. The system was not under attack. It was being isolated. A new voice entered the recording, different cadence, younger. "Enemy response time exceeded projections," the voice said. "They don't understand what's happening." The screen shifted to an enemy command hub. The alien architecture was elegant, curved, full of flowing light. Officers moved in confusion, gestures sharp, signals overlapping. Their language translated automatically, fragmented. Lost contact, navigation unreliable, human ships not firing. A pause. Why are they waiting? The council chamber was completely silent now. The human recording answered that question without words. Phase 2 began. The human fleet advanced, not toward population centers, not toward the core world, but along the system's industrial spine. Shipyards, refinement platforms, energy collectors. Each target blinked out with the same precision. No firestorms, no debris clouds choking orbits. Just absence. A council delegate whispered. "They're removing the system's ability to fight." "No," another replied slowly. "They're removing its ability to recover." The human analyst's voice returned, colder now. Enemy industrial capacity reduced to 12%. Timeline to restoration without external support, 73 standard cycles. A beat. External support unavailable. The council realized what they were watching. This was not a battle. This was erased by patience. The recording jumped forward in time, hours, then days. The enemy fleet finally engaged, charging from hiding positions in a desperate attempt to force a decisive encounter. They were met, not by the full human force, by a wall. Human ships formed interlocking fields, overlapping defenses that burned out enemy weapons through sheer endurance. Human vessels took hits that would have shattered council-designed craft, and kept moving. When one finally failed, it did not retreat. It detonated itself. Not near enemy ships. Near an enemy sensor cluster. The blast blinded an entire sector of space. In the council chamber, someone made a low, horrified sound. They're using their own ships as tools, a delegate said. Not even as weapons. Kate spoke again, softly. That ship was already lost, she said. The crew knew it. They chose how it would matter. The recording did not glorify the moment. No slow motion. No heroic framing. Just a sudden flare, and darkness where the enemy's eyes had been. The human commander's voice returned, strained for the first time. Phase 3, Admiral Cho said. Begin. The screen changed. This time, the council gasped. The human fleet split, not to attack, but to surround. Every inhabited world. Every major orbital habitat. A perfect net, drawn with frightening accuracy. Weapons remained silent. A broadcast signal went out, translated into every known enemy language. This is the United Earth Directorate, the message said. We are not here to conquer you. A pause long enough to hurt. We are here to stop you. Enemy leadership appeared again, frantic now, arguing among themselves. They haven't fired. What are they waiting for? They can't hold this forever. A human response arrived instantly. We can, the message said. You cannot. The council chamber felt colder. A delegate near the upper arc whispered. They're not threatening destruction. No, another replied. They're threatening time. The recording shifted again, weeks later. Enemy worlds dimmed as energy shortages spread. Civil unrest grew, not from bombardment, but from fear, from uncertainty, from the realization that no help was coming. Human ships did not move. They waited. A final transmission from the enemy command appeared, translated with visible errors, language breaking under stress. We request terms, cease isolation. We will comply. The human commander appeared one last time, face gaunt, eyes hollow. You will disarm, Admiral Cho said. You will dismantle your war infrastructure. You will open your archives. And you will remember this. A pause. Because next time, we won't be patient. The screen went dark. No explosion marked the end. No victory banner. No cheers. Just black. For several long seconds, no one in the Galaxy Council spoke. Then a soft, shaken voice broke the silence. This isn't how wars are won. Cade turned slowly. No, she said. This is how wars are ended. High Arbiter Seln leaned back in his seat, his earlier certainty gone, replaced by something colder and far more dangerous, calculation. You expect us to believe, he said carefully, that this level of coordination, restraint, and endurance is common among humans? Cade met his gaze. No, she said. It only appears when survival is questioned. Commander Maddox stepped forward beside her. You banned us because you think humans escalate too far, he said. What you just saw is us holding back. A ripple of unease moved through the chamber. The Arbiter looked back at the dark screen. And if you hadn't, he asked. Cade answered without hesitation. Then the recording would have ended very differently. The stars beyond the chamber seemed dimmer now, as if the universe itself had leaned closer to listen. And somewhere in the silence, a terrible understanding began to take shape. The Galaxy Council had not laughed at a violent species. They had laughed at a species that knew exactly how far it could go, and chose, every time, how much mercy the galaxy deserved. The Council did not resume debate immediately. That alone was unprecedented. In the centuries since its founding, the Galaxy Council had argued through supernova scares, species collapses, even the deliberate extinction of a minor civilization deemed structurally incompatible. Silence was not its nature. Yet now, after the response, the chamber remained frozen in a kind of collective hesitation, as if speaking too quickly might reveal ignorance no one could afford. High Arbiter Seln finally moved, adjusting the crystalline interface at his seat. His voice, when it came, was slower than before. This recording, he said, demonstrates strategic sophistication, discipline, a willingness to accept loss. He paused, choosing his words carefully. But it does not justify fear. Several delegates nodded, relieved to hear authority reclaim itself. Endurance is not uniqueness, Seln continued. Many species endure. Many sacrifices. The Council does not govern on emotional reaction. Archivist Nia Cade exhaled quietly through her nose. That, she said, is why there is a third file. A ripple passed through the chamber, sharper this time. Commander Maddox turned his head slightly toward her. Not surprising. Recognition. High Arbiter Selm frowned. You were granted one submission. Yes, Cade replied. And this is still the same record. She raised her tablet again. The interface glowed, but the screen did not immediately change. Instead, a warning appeared. Archival notice content deemed non-strategic historically suppressed, viewer discretion advised. A slender delegate from the upper arc recoiled. Why would a civilization suppress its own victories? Kate did not look at them. Because this isn't a victory, she said. It's a habit. She activated playback. The image that appeared was not a battlefield. It was a quiet room. Small, dim, human scale. A table, 2 chairs, a single overhead light that buzzed faintly. Across the table sat a being the council had never catalogued. Thin-limbed, asymmetrical, skin patterned with stress colors flickering between dull violet and sickly yellow. Prisoner. The being's restraints were minimal. No force fields. No weapons aimed. Just presence. A human entered the frame and sat down. No uniform. No insignia. Just plain clothing. Sleeves rolled up. Hands visible. A council member scoffed. Interrogation footage? No, Kate said. Conversation. The human spoke gently. You're not going to be harmed, the human said. That doesn't mean you're safe. It means we want answers more than revenge. The prisoner's color patterns flared erratically. Your fleet destroyed our future, the alien said, voice trembling through the translator. You crippled us. The human nodded. Yes, they said. We did. No denial. No justification. The prisoner's patterns darkened. Then why am I alive? The human leaned back slightly. Because killing you wouldn't teach us anything, they said. And it wouldn't teach you enough. A murmur spread through the council. The recording jumped. Time compression indicated hours passing. The conversation continued, fragmented. Why did you attack Earth? We believed you would fracture under pressure. All species do. The human listened more than they spoke. When the prisoner finally broke, patterns collapsing into dull gray, the human did not celebrate. Instead, they asked one question. What would you have done if we surrendered? The prisoner hesitated, then answered. We would have dismantled your leadership, re-educate your population, remove your capacity to resist. A pause. Peacefully, the human nodded again. That's what we thought, they said. The council chamber felt tight, like the walls had inched closer. The recording changed again. This time, a human medical facility. Wounded enemy soldiers lay alongside human ones. Same equipment, same care, same urgency. A council delegate snapped. This is posturing. Optics. Cade finally turned, eyes sharp. This is doctrine, she said. Humans do not believe cruelty strengthens victory. The footage shifted once more. A human council, not the galactic one, but Earth's. Smaller. Messier. Voices overlapping. Anger. Fear. Exhaustion. A leader slammed a hand on the table. We can't keep doing this, the leader said. Every time we fight like this, we change. Another voice responded, bitter. If we don't exist. Silence fell in the room. A third voice, quieter, older. Then we need rules, it said. Rules for ourselves. Because no one else will make them for us. The council leaned forward. The recording displayed text, human legal code. Limits on escalation, forbidden actions, authorized responses, last resort protocols. These were written, Cade said, after humanity learned something the hard way. High Arbiter Selm's voice was low. Learned what? That when humans fight without limits, Cade said, the universe does not recover. The recording jumped again, this time to something the council had never seen. A dead system. No stars. Just dust and scattered matter, drifting where something massive had once existed. A human voice spoke, hollow. This is what happens when restraint fails. The council erupted. Impossible. No species could. This violates conservation. Cade cut through the noise. We didn't show you this earlier, she said, voice raised but steady. Because you would have stopped watching. The Arbiter's eyes locked onto the image. Did humanity do this? No, Cade replied. A breath of relief moved through the chamber. Humanity prevented it from spreading, she finished. Silence crashed back down. The recording showed human ships at the edge of the dead zone. Not attacking, not advancing, containing. A voiceover played, older, weary. We didn't win, the voice said. We survived something that shouldn't exist. And we swore no one else ever would. The screen faded to black. For the first time since the session began, no one laughed. No one scoffed. No one whispered. High Arbiter Seln spoke at last. You are telling us, he said slowly, that humans limit themselves not because they are weak, but because they are afraid of what happens if they don't. Kate inclined her head. Yes. Commander Maddox added quietly. And because we've already seen the worst-case scenario. The Arbiter looked around the chamber, at ancient species who had never fought for survival, only dominance. And the ban? He asked. What does humanity believe it accomplishes? Kate answered with a calm that felt heavier than anger. It teaches humans that the galaxy doesn't trust us, she said. And when humans believe they are alone. She let the sentence end unfinished. No one asked her to complete it. Because after what they had seen, the Council finally understood something that could not be voted away, regulated, or laughed off. Humanity's greatest threat was not its weapons. It was a memory. And memory, once awakened, did not care about bans. The Galaxy Council had always believed that fear was a crude instrument. Fear led to overreaction. Overreaction led to collapse. That was the lesson carved into their laws, etched into the silver spiral beneath their seats. Order was achieved through distance, detachment, and rules written far from emotion. Yet now fear sat among them, quiet, controlled, and infinitely more dangerous than panic. High Arbiter Seln did not call for an immediate vote. That, more than anything, unsettled the chamber. Instead, he activated a secondary protocol. The silver spiral dimmed. The public observation layers of the chamber folded inward, sealing off external feeds. What remained was a closed session, a privilege reserved for extinction-level decisions. You have shown us what humans do when threatened, Seln said carefully. What you have not shown us is why this concerns the Council now. A fair question. Kate nodded once. Then we will stop showing you the past. She changed the feed. This time, the recording was unmistakably recent. The date stamp appeared immediately, translated, verified, impossible to dismiss. Current cycle, -3 standard week source. Human Deep Space Monitoring Network. The stars on screen were distorted. Space itself rippled, as if the universe had inhaled and forgotten how to exhale. Several council members reacted at once. That region is beyond charted space. No known mass could. That's not a gravitational anomaly. It's a discontinuity. The recording zoomed out. The scale became clear. Something vast had folded the fabric of space inward. Not violently, not explosively, but deliberately, like a hand pressing into soft matter. A human voice spoke, tight but controlled. We detected it before it crossed the threshold. Barely. High Arbiter Seln's voice sharpened. Crossed what threshold? Kate answered without hesitation. The one that turns observation into inevitability. The feed split into layered data. Probability cones. Expansion models. Casualty projections that climbed too fast to follow. A council analyst whispered, if that enters populated space. Kate finished the thought. It doesn't stop, she said. Not at systems. Not at empires. It propagates until structure fails. Stars collapse wrong. Physics breaks. A delegate recoiled. You're describing a universe-ending phenomenon. Yes, Kate said. We call it a continuum predator. The chamber erupted. This is speculation. No evidence such an entity. Why was the council not informed immediately? Commander Maddox stepped forward, voice firm. Because the first species to encounter it did inform the council, he said. They were gone before the message arrived. Silence fell like a dropped blade. The recording continued. Human ships appeared, different from before. These were not warships. Their signatures were strange, incomplete, layered with systems the council's translators struggled to classify. Containment vessels. Humanity did not attack it, Maddox continued. We studied it. We failed to destroy it. So we did the only thing left. The feed showed human fleets positioning, not around worlds, but around nothing. A growing absence where stars should have been. They formed a boundary. A delegate's voice shook. You're holding it back. Kate nodded. With everything we have. High Arbiter Seln stared at the display. Why show us this now? Because of the ban, Kate said. And because of what it removes. The feed shifted again. Human command chatter filled the chamber. Containment field holding at 70%. Losses within acceptable margins. No request for council aid per directive. Seln's eyes narrowed. Per directive? Maddox met his gaze. Human directive. Issued after our admission. Kate continued. When the council classified humans as unstable, unpredictable, and excessive, we accepted the judgment. Her voice remained calm, but something sharp lived beneath it. We decided the galaxy should never rely on us unless absolutely necessary, she said. So we wrote rules. One of them was simple. She tapped the tablet. The words appeared on screen. Directive 12. Humanity shall not request galactic intervention until failure is statistically certain. A ripple of horror passed through the chamber. That's suicide, someone whispered. No, Kate said. That's my responsibility. The recording jumped. A human vessel drifted, torn open. Inside, emergency lights flickered over bodies. Crew still strapped in, hands locked around controls that no longer responded. Another ship replaced it in formation without hesitation. The boundary held. Barely. High Arbiter Seln stood. This time, he did not hide his unease. You are telling us, he said slowly, that while we debated banning humans from conflict, you have been preventing an extinction event alone. Yes, Kate said. And if you fail? Kate did not answer immediately. Instead, she brought up the final projection. A cascading collapse. Not instant. Not dramatic. Inevitable. If we fail, she said, the galaxy will have time to argue about who should have acted. The Arbiter's voice was tight. Why not tell us sooner? Commander Maddox answered this time. Because we know how the Council responds to fear, he said. You regulate it. Delay it. Vote on it. He gestured to the frozen image of the anomaly. That thing doesn't wait for consensus. The chamber was utterly still now. High Arbiter Seln looked at the human delegation, not as children, not as threats, but as something far more unsettling. A species that did not ask permission to carry the unbearable. The ban, he said quietly, would prevent humans from acting beyond your borders. Yes, Cade replied. And you showed us this because... Cade met his eyes fully. Because if the ban stands, she said, humanity will obey it. A chill moved through the chamber. Maddox finished the thought. And the day the containment line breaks, he said, we will still not ask for help. The stars beyond the dome felt very far away. High Arbiter Seln lowered himself back into his seat. For the first time in his long existence, he understood the question that haunted every human decision, every suppressed recording, every self-imposed limit. Not can humanity fight, but should they be allowed to fight alone? And for the first time, the Galaxy Council realized the ban was not a judgment of human violence. It was a test. One humanity had already decided to fail, rather than risk failing the galaxy. The Galaxy Council had rules for everything. How wars were declared. How borders were redrawn. How extinction was acknowledged after the fact. They did not have rules for shame. High Arbiter Seln remained seated longer than tradition allowed. In older cycles, a delay like this would have been read as weakness. Now, no one dared interrupt it. The chamber had lost its appetite for certainty. You have placed us, Seln said at last, in an impossible position. Kay did not flinch. That position already existed, she said. You were simply unaware of it. A ripple of unease moved through the delegates, not anger this time, but something closer to recognition. They had governed the galaxy for millennia by believing threats announced themselves loudly. Fleets, invasions, demands. This one had been quiet. Seln gestured, and the projection of the anomaly returned, not advancing, not retreating. Held, strained, contained by human ships that looked more like scaffolding than weapons. How long, he asked. Commander Maddox answered without consulting data. Weeks if we're lucky, days if we aren't. And after that, Maddox hesitated, not out of fear, but calculation. After that, he said, there will be nothing left to debate. A delegate from the upper arc rose abruptly. Old, revered, a species whose wars were studied as art. You should have come to us, the delegate said, voice tight. You should have trusted the council. Cade turned slowly. We did, she said. Once. The room stilled. You laughed, she continued. You debated our instincts. You categorized our history as immaturity. So we learned something valuable. She tapped the console, bringing up a single line of human doctrine. Do not place survival in the hands of those who have never faced extinction. Several delegates recoiled, not in offense, but because the statement rang uncomfortably true. High Arbiter Seln closed his eyes briefly. The ban, he said, was meant to prevent chaos. And instead, Cade replied, it nearly ensured it. Seln straightened. The council will vote. The words triggered ancient mechanisms. Lights shifted. The silver spiral beneath them brightened. 73 voting nodes were activated. For the first time since the session began, Cade's posture changed. She did not look hopeful. She looked resigned. The votes appeared, not individually, but as weighted probability bands, a council tradition meant to soften responsibility. Lift the ban, modify the ban, maintain the ban. The percentages shifted in real time. Maintain the ban held strong at first. Old habits, old fear of unpredictability. Then a delegate from a species that had once lost an entire system to slow starvation shifted their vote. Then another, one who remembered a war where restraint had come too late. The balance tipped. Lift the ban, 61%. A murmur swept the chamber. Relief. Panic. Calculation. High Arbiter Seln raised a hand. The ban on human military participation is hereby. Cade interrupted him. No, she said. The word echoed. Seln froze. Excuse me. The vote is irrelevant, Cade said calmly. You are too late for permission to matter. The chamber erupted. What do you mean? This is council authority. You cannot. Commander Maddox stepped forward. Containment is failing, he said. While you voted. The projection updated automatically. Containment integrity, 38%. The anomaly pulsed, not forward, not backward, but outward. Reality thinning like overstretched fabric. Seln stared at the display. Why didn't you tell us sooner? Cade met his gaze. We did, she said. You were laughing. Silence crushed the chamber. A delegate whispered, what happens now? Maddox answered, voice flat. Now humanity breaks its own rules. Cade activated one final file. Not a recording. A declaration. Directive 13. Emergency override authorized only when galactic structure is at risk, outcome not guaranteed, survivability not required. The wording hit the chamber like a physical blow. You're going to destroy it, Sun said. Yes, Cade replied. At what cost? She did not soften her answer. We don't know, she said. That's why we didn't want to be responsible alone. The projection shifted again. Human fleets were moving, not to contain, but to intersect. Power levels spiked beyond any previous display. Systems came online that had no translation. One delegate cried out, that energy release will destabilize the region. Maddox nodded. It will. And beyond. Unknown. The chamber shook slightly, not physically, but perceptually, as if reality itself had noticed it was being discussed. High Arbiter Seln stood fully now. Counsel to humanity, he said, voice no longer ceremonial. We lift the ban. We authorize joint action. We accept responsibility. Cade looked at him, not with anger, not with triumph, with something like regret. Authorization acknowledged, she said. Too late to share the burden. She turned away from the chamber and faced the screen. The human command voice came through, strained, resolved. Phase final, the voice said. All units commit. The anomaly reacted, not with violence, with attention. For the first time, it seemed to notice the human fleets closing in. And somewhere deep in the council's collective mind, a terrible realization settled. This was not a battle humanity expected to survive. This was a sacrifice they had prepared for, so no one else would have to. The vote had changed policy. It had not changed reality. And as the light on the screen grew brighter than stars, the Galaxy Council finally understood the cost of laughing at a species that planned for the end of everything, and still chose to stand in front of it. The light did not explode. That was the first thing the Galaxy Council noticed, and the most unsettling. They had braced for annihilation, for a violent end that would at least fit the stories their civilizations told about extinction. Instead, the brightness on the screen folded inward, collapsing like a star being taught how to die quietly. Then, nothing. No anomaly. No fleets. No boundary. Just empty space where the universe had been bent, scarred faintly by patterns that would take centuries to fade. For a long moment, no one spoke. The council chamber felt hollow, as if something fundamental had been removed and the echo had not yet arrived. High Arbiter Seln was the first to break the silence. Status, he said, and the words sounded fragile. The chamber's system struggled, recalibrating around absence. No signals returned. No human transponders. No debris fields. No final message. Commander Maddox stood very still. His hands were clenched so tightly the joints had gone white. Cade did not move at all. A delegate whispered what many were thinking. They're gone. Cade closed her eyes, not in grief, but in confirmation. Yes, she said. The word landed without drama, without accusation, just a fact. The council had cataloged losses before, entire species reduced to archival entries, but this was different. Humanity had not been erased by an enemy. They had stepped out of existence by choice. Seelan's voice shook despite himself. They didn't ask for survivors. No, Cade replied. They asked for an ending. The chamber systems updated again, slower now, as if reluctant. Residual readings appeared, weak, scattered, almost apologetic. Wait, a science delegate said sharply. There's something. The display zoomed. At the far edge of the former anomaly zone, a distortion lingered, not growing, not collapsing. Stable, artificial. A structure emerged from the noise. Not a ship, a lattice. Human in origin, unmistakably so. Crude geometry reinforced by impossible mathematics. It pulsed faintly, holding reality in a shape it did not naturally want. Cade inhaled sharply. They built a lock, she said. Not a weapon. Seln stared. With no one left to maintain it? Yes, Maddox said quietly. That's the point. Understanding rippled through the chamber. The humans had not destroyed the threat. They had closed the door behind themselves. A delegate near the upper arc broke down, their bioluminescence flickering erratically. They sealed it from the inside. Cade nodded. So no one else ever would. Silence followed, heavy, final. Then the chamber lights dimmed as a new signal forced its way through priority channels. Not human, not council, unknown origin. The display resolved into a single line of translated text, distorted but readable. Observers detected pattern recognized subject. Humanity. The council recoiled. What is that? Someone demanded. The signal continued. Query. Why would a species choose oblivion over dominion? Cade stepped forward, exhaustion finally visible in the way she carried herself. Because domination isn't survival, she said softly. And humanity learned that lesson early. The signal paused, processing. Response accepted conclusion. Humanity classified as stabilizing variable. A chill passed through the chamber. Stabilizing variable? Seln echoed. The signal's final message appeared. Galactic continuity preserve cost acknowledged humanity will be remembered. Then it vanished. No coordinates. No trace. Just the echo of recognition. The council chamber felt unbearably small now. High Arbiter Seln lowered himself into his seat, older than he had ever felt. We banned them, he said quietly. We laughed at them. And they still saved us. Cade turned toward him. No, she said. They didn't save you because you asked. She looked up at the stars beyond the dome, stars that still existed because someone had decided they mattered more than themselves. They saved you because that's what humans do when they decide something must not end. The council convened again weeks later. Not to govern, to remember. Humanity was removed from the ban lists, from threat assessments, from military projections. They were placed somewhere else entirely. A new classification, created reluctantly, with no precedent. Extinct by choice legacy active. The lattice remained at the edge of space, silent, eternal. No one approached it. No one tried to replicate it. Because every species that studied the data reached the same conclusion. If humanity had needed rules to stop themselves, then whatever they had sealed away was not something the galaxy should ever be curious about again. And so the Galaxy Council stopped laughing. Not because they were afraid of humans, but because they finally understood the most terrifying truth of all. The species they had underestimated had been strong enough to leave the universe standing, even if it meant stepping out of it forever.